Hello everyone, happy Monday. It's Coach Fro from RocioFlores.com and I'm doing my daily life Bible reading. Today we're reading chapters 12 and 13 of the book of Genesis. So back in the beginning of the year, we started with the beginning of the entire Bible, which is just Genesis 1. And then there's like a break between the first 11 chapters and the next 12 when it comes to the chronology of the books. At least that's what is believed. So then we read all of the chapters of Job. We read all the chapters of Job, and we finished that book. Now we're back to the regular story. So just to get going, we've already passed the flood. We've passed Noah. We've passed the Tower of Babylon. We've gone through the lineage to Abraham, and so it's Abraham, but we haven't learned that yet. So his name started out by being Abraham. So you maybe heard people talk about Abraham, but he began by being called Abram. So I don't know why that happens. God changes people's names sometimes in the Bible. I'm not really sure what the reason for that is, other than that it changes the meaning. So like, you know, when we think about like other cultures, sometimes we think about like people are named after specific things that mean specific, like you were called what you were, you know, that kind of thing. Today's world, we don't really do that. We just kind of use whatever word we like that sounds pretty or we've used or has some meaning to us. But our name doesn't necessarily mean what it means. Like my name is Rocio, which means dew. So it's like the dew on the flowers in the morning. That's what it means. Or it could be mist, which is pretty, you know. So sometimes I find perfumes that say Rocio de whatever it is, like Rocio de Rosas or something like that. Hello. And so that's kind of how they name names back in the day too, which is, I think, makes sense, because back in the day, regardless of whether you're going by the Bible or anything else, like, how did you identify people? You know what I mean? Like, you had to identify them by what they were, and so then you just used that as their name, and then that became a name, and then that got passed down. But like, you know, we kind of forget that those words have meanings. Anyways, let's just go into the chapters. They're not really long chapters. They're only 20 and 18, so right in that 40 mark. That was still very much within that amount that I wanted to stay with. So this is called the Call of Abram, and I'll just go ahead and start. Chapter 12. The Lord said to Abram, "Go out from your land, your relatives, and your father's house, to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you, I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. I will curse those who treat you with contempt, and all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you." So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Lot, his cousin. Okay. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, all the possessions they had accumulated, and the people he had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan. When they came to the land of Canaan, Abram passed through the land of Shechem at the oak of Moreh. At that time, the Canaanites were in the land. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, "I will give this land to your offspring." So I wanted to point out, when they were moving, when it says like they, with all the people he had acquired, like it wasn't just like him, like three people. Like I don't know if you ever watch movies with that kind of, like the whole story of Abraham, or specifically Lot, and those. I feel like that's a little probably more popular side of the story. It always shows like three people. It doesn't really show that it was a people coming. You know, like that means like a group. So those are probably like his servants and stuff like that. That goes to show also that it was somebody who had been blessed, at least in the sense that they had accumulated stuff. They were people who had a family, who had. The stuff is probably like animals and stuff like that, you know? Animals, servants, whatever it was that they lived, like it was normal for them, right? And then I wrote down like so they went from Ur to Haran to Canaan. I believe that's how it says it in the section before this. Or they were heading to the land of Canaan. And then the land of Canaan is going to come up a lot throughout the entirety of the Bible. It's actually, the Canaanites are a huge part of the Bible, so you can read up on them themselves. I think there's a lot of information about them. And yeah, okay, let me keep going. But the promise is, this is the land I'm going to give you. Even though the Canaanites were living there, there were people living there. So you got to understand there's a history of people living there and a history that's separate from the people of Abraham. Remember that Canaan is the, remember Noah's son, the one that walked in on him, and then that's that whole thing with Noah and his dad, Noah's kid and his dad, and then Canaan was the kid that was cursed. So Canaanites. Okay, so there's history there, but which I can go into, but I think there's like different understandings of why that was moved. So when it comes up, I'll bring it up. But okay, so he built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. From there, he moved to the hill country east of Bethel. So he didn't stay in Canaan. He went to another place called Bethel, pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. He built an altar to Yahweh there, and he called on the name of Yahweh. Then Abram journeyed by the stages to the Negev. Okay, so where he built the altar is that place, but then he continued to the Negev, which is like a whole other place. I don't know if it has mentioned the word Yahweh yet. There's a whole really good video. I think it's a Bible Project video that goes into like all the different names used for God. Because there's, I have that written down. I feel like I do. Because there's different names that are used to describe the name of God. I don't know if you guys have heard, you've heard Jehovah or Yahweh or just a bunch of different names. Some people use God, some people use Lord, and so then it has to do with the language and what they had used. So I don't want to go into the explanation because I don't think I know it enough by memory to explain it. But it's something that you can look up, and it goes over the explanations. For me, I wanted to know it because I grew up, my mom being Jehovah's Witness. That's the word she used to describe God. On the other hand, I've heard people who were very much you're not supposed to use this word or that word, and I also was very confused, so what's right and what's wrong, and does it matter, do I need to be paying attention to that, does that make this translation or that translation or this or that bad, etc. So, I'll link the video. I'll go look for it and I'll add it to this video's description on YouTube. That way you can click on it and actually be able to understand, just the whole process of it. Okay, so, then, 10. There was a famine in the land, so Abram went down to Egypt to live there for a while, because the famine in the land was severe. When he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, "Look, I know what a beautiful woman you are." So remember, he's traveling. Hi, Sayed. He's traveling all around, not all around, but, sorry, I'm trying to send a little wave on here. So he's going from different places, and then he goes down to Egypt, and then he continues. Okay, and this is an interesting story. Tony and I were really into the story for some reason. We're like, what? So, okay, this is a whole thing that happens with his wife. I think it's kind of crazy. So when he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, "Look, I know what a beautiful woman you are. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'This is his wife.' They will kill me, but let you live. Please say you're my sister, so it will go well for me because of you, and my life will be spared on your account." When Abram entered Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful. Pharaoh's officials saw her and praised her to Pharaoh, so the woman was taken to Pharaoh's household. I don't know why I'm getting a call all of a sudden. Okay. He treated Abram well because of her, and Abram acquired flocks and herds, male and female donkeys, male and female servants, and camels. So basically, they pretended that was just his sister, so that they would be nice to Abram and not be like, "I'm just gonna kill him," right? But that's we were like, what? That's so messed up. So then we see, but the Lord struck Pharaoh and his household with severe plagues because of Abram's wife Sarai. So Pharaoh sent for Abram and said, "What have you done to me? Why didn't you tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say she's my sister? So I took her as my wife. Now here's your wife. Take her and go." Then Pharaoh gave his men orders about him, and they sent him away with his wife and all he had. So obviously, because it was wrong for that to happen, God had a response to it. You'll actually see, so a situation like this happens again later. So I just think it's funny because, didn't you freaking learn? But we'll read that when that comes up. But But yes, don't tell people. I just think it's so messed up. Now is like a controversy, I would say, about what it means when he says, like, why did you say she's my sister? So I took her as my wife. So that I took her as my wife. Like, we had to look that up. I was like, does that mean that he took her as his wife, as in, like, they did stuff and that meant, like, that's why that wrath came on him? Or that I took her as my wife so that I would, kind of like, so that I would happen this way, but then it didn't. In either case, what the heck, Abraham? Like, that could have happened. Like, your wife, you basically prostituted your wife for nothing, right? So that's pretty messed up. And it goes back to that understanding that just because they're followers of God does not mean that they're perfect or don't do things that are bad or dumb or not without consequences, right? They're not perfect. They are. So when you think of the word holy, holy doesn't mean better. It means separate. And so those people with God chose, like, you are going to be like you're the righteous guy, or you're going to be this or that or that. That doesn't necessarily mean that they did good stuff. At least not all the time. But their allegiance was to God. Does that make sense? And there's a lot of other thoughts that come with that when it comes to our own journeys and, like, what that means for us. But I won't go into that right now. I just want to go to a story. Okay. Chapter 13. Then Abram went up from Egypt to the Negev. I want to know where the Negev is. Might have to look that up. I don't remember. I have like a little map. It's probably here. This thing's really cute, but I haven't looked at it in a little bit. See, it has like the land of Canaan. And it has like a little mini map. I wish I had a better one. This Bible I have doesn't, which I don't understand if it's a apologetic study Bible, which is like meant to teach you stuff. Like, shouldn't it have maps and like more, textbooks? Because if you look at the front of it, it's very textbook looking, like it's meant for students. And yet it doesn't have that. I don't remember where the Negev is. Might have to look that up. Okay, so I'll just keep going. He, his wife, and all he had, and Lot with him. Abram was very rich in livestock, silver, and gold. He went by the stages from the Negev to Bethel, to the place between Bethel and Ai, where his tent had formerly been, to the site where he had built the altar, and Abram called on the name of Yahweh there. So he went all the way back to that location. Now Lot, who was traveling with Abram, also had flocks, herds, and tents, but the land was unable to support them as long as they stayed together, for they had so many possessions that they could not stay together. And there was quarreling between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdmen of Lot's livestock. So you gotta have a ton of stuff, right? Like, you have to have a ton of stuff if your people are fighting their people. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just like I'm with a few of my buddies. Like, it's like they have. Not only would they be like they are the herdsmen with their animals. No, they have people who take care of the herds for them. So that's how rich they were. I guess I don't know. I guess in my head I kind of thought, like, you think of people wandering in the desert. That's the idea of the Bible. Like, that's how you always think of it. You don't really think of people with, like, possessions and having money and stuff like that. And that's not really how it's portrayed. And I mean, obviously, we look at anything in the past, and we can think of poor. But some people were rich, and, like, they lived well, at least compared to people in that time. Maybe not compared to us, but okay. So at that time, the Canaanites and the Perizzites were living in the land. Then Abram said to Lot, "Please, let's not have quarreling between you and me, or between your herdsmen and my herdsmen, since we're relatives. Isn't the whole land before you? Separate from me. You go to the left, I will go to the right. If you go to the right, I'll go to the left." Lot looked out and saw the entire Jordan Valley, as far as Zoar, was well watered everywhere, like the Lord's garden and the land of Egypt. And we know from history that Egypt has a lot of water because they have they're like the wateriest place in that area because of the Nile River. That's something we learn in, like, school, right? So that makes sense. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose the entire Jordan Valley for himself. Then Lot journeyed eastward and separated from each other. Abram lived in the land of Canaan, but Lot lived in the cities of the valley, set up his tent near Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were evil, sinning greatly against the Lord. That's a whole story, and I think we're about to read it. Yeah, I think that's the story that we're about to read tomorrow, which is interesting. But anyways, basically, what's his face just said, hey, obviously we can't both live here. We're a little cramped. So if you want to go that way, I'll go this way. If you want to go this way, I'll go that way. And then that way we don't fight, but we stay, we stay on good terms. But we, I always thought this was weird because I've heard this story. Because when I was a kid, like my mom would have like, those kid Bibles that kind of simplify the stories. It kind of made it seem like it was one dude and they separated, which you'd be like, why in the world would you need to separate, especially if you're out traveling out in the middle of nowhere, like. But it makes more sense when you realize that they had families and livestock and workers, and they were basically like a small city moving, right? That makes sense, because you can always visit each other later, but they were looking for a place to like settle. So Lot chose a not so great place. And we're going to learn about that tomorrow. But let me finish reading this little part. Okay. After Lot had separated from him, the Lord said to Abram, look from the place you are. Look north and south and east and west, for I will give you and your offspring forever all the land that you see. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth, so that if anyone could count the dust of the earth, then your offspring could be counted. Get up and walk around the land through its length and width, for I will give it to you. So he essentially, this is like the big promise of the patriarchs, which Abraham is like the first patriarch. That's just the name for like the fathers of the society at the time, like the fathers of I would say the religion or like the faith. So before this, obviously God still existed before this, and obviously there, like we have Job and we have all the Adam and all the people in the beginning, and Noah who were godly men. But this is the moment where God was like, I'm going to take you, specifically you, and create a new movement. And from this moment on, you're going to spread this. And it was like a separation, which is different than, I don't know, I feel like I've heard arguments about that along the lines of like, well, where was God before this? Or what were the rules before this? And it's like, I can't say that I know that was a thing. I just know that from this moment forward, it's like the beginning of the history of the Hebrew people. So Abraham moved his tent and went to live near the oaks of Mamre at Hebron, where he built an altar to the Lord. Tomorrow we're going to read, that's it for today's reading. Tomorrow we're going to read 14 and 15, I believe, which are very interesting stories. That's what I like Genesis, because it's like kind of broken up into small sections of little stories, which are a little bit easier for me to like understand like what's happening, but it's still continuing that story, and they're just easier to read. But tomorrow we'll read this, and it'll be nice and interesting, and I'll have a hard time reading it because I have a hard time reading whenever there's something that's a little difficult. But yeah, thank you guys so much for being on here, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I hope you have a really good Monday, really good motivating Monday to get you started on the whole week. And yeah, I'm going to post this on my YouTube at bit.ly/Rose Daily Live Bible Reading, and that's it. Alright, bye guys, have a good one.